1 second. Okay, once again. Good morning, everybody. Happy New Year. Some of you guys know who I am, some who don't. My name is Susan, and this is another series of our Chinese cooking that we're going to have today that Miss Jin is going to be teaching us how to make sweet rice ball dessert. And I wanted to, again, wish everybody Happy New Year. And we're going to start out with Jin with the Tong Yin. Go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, 大家早上好. We are talking about the little bit about holiday, the Lantern Festival. Lantern Festival, many of you probably know, is the mark of the end of the Chinese New Year celebration. It's always on the full moon, which was here. It was yesterday. Was our official day, and the Lantern Festival started in the Eastern Han time in China, and at that time it's the emperor is a true believer in the Buddhism, and then he suggested and promoted for all his royal court, all the officials to lit lanterns, and then that has been then spread to the civilian area, and then later on it was a small area where near the capital, that's where they're doing it, and then later on it spread throughout the entire country. And on that day, people hang lanterns. They also release lanterns, and they eat this one thing dessert. It's called tangyuan. Tangyuan, with another name, is also yuan xiao. That's why the Chinese name for Lantern Festival is Yuan Xiao Jie. Yuan Xiao Jie. And how the yuan xiao is made, and there are many different type of fillings you can do, and there are in general there are sweet desserts in the southern China, and then certain cities that we're also making a savory yuan xiao, which is like we use a pork filling to put it in this rice flour, and then it's just a plain soup. You don't season soup at all. But the filling itself is like the dumpling filling without the vegetables. But for the sweet filling, you can use black sesame, you can use lotus, you can use red bean. That's the three most common fillings to use. But you can also make yuan xiao without any filling. You make them smaller, little tiny the rice balls, and then with that, when you cook them in the water, and then we usually add a scrambled egg in there, and then we also add the fermented rice called jiu niang, fermented rice, and then you also sweeten it with sugar. So there are different ways of eating this, and so what I'm going to show you is how to make the red bean ones. Have the red bean, you can buy the red bean paste, and then after you get the red bean paste, then you can use this in as a filling. You can also use the red bean. You can melt the red bean in the soup to mix in with the solid rice balls.
I wanted to mention, I forgot to mention, for those who are new to us, if you want a question, if you have a question, feel free to email me using your chat button, and then I can ask Jin while she's doing the demonstration. Thank you, Jin.
Okay, so the flour we use is called the 糯米粉. This is the glutinous rice flour. You can buy these at the Chinese grocery store. So you don't need that much of flour for making. It really depends on how many you make. You can use 100 gram or 200 gram of flour, along with if it's let's say if it's like 250 gram of flour, you can use about 200 grams of warm or hotter than warm water to mix it. Okay, so I have a flour in the bowl. Let's see if I can show you here. Okay, so I have flour in the bowl, okay, and then we can add the water in. Let me do this, just add the water in. While adding water in, you just use the chopsticks to stir. The process of doing this is different than the regular flour dough. This, it can be, if it's too hard, you add a little, if you think it's not enough, you can just always add a little more water. It's nice and soft, very, very soft, easy working dough. It can get sticky if it's too much water, but if you realize, okay, it's too much water, then just add a little more flour until when you're able to work with the dough, and then it's not so stick to your hand, because it's a fairly easy working material. So I think I added just a little too much water in here. Here, let me show you. It's how easy it is when it's too much water. Okay, now I'm going to pour a little bit of a flour over it. Okay, now I have a flour on top of it, right? So again, you just mix it together. It's
Also, for everybody, the recipe for Jin's Tong Yun is on our website, www.tucsonchinese.org. If you do the pull down tab under classes, the recipe is on that location.
okay. So see, it's kind of like it's forming a nice dough. Okay, and then to make sure that it's not so sticky, what I'm going to do is you can pour some flour on your hand, and then while you're working on it, then it's not so stick to your hand. Okay. So I can take the dough off the chopsticks, and then here we can just start kneading. Nice, just very nice. It's very, very soft dough. It doesn't need much of a pressure on it. So you just keep kneading until they're all nice and even. See, it's not really sticking to my hand, the dough itself. And since I use the close to boiling water, this is probably about 180 degrees of water temperature, and so it's nice and warm. The dough, when you hold it in your hand, it's really nice and warm. So when it's formed, pretty much nice. You should have a pretty clean bowl, and then when this is still nice and soft, but it's not sticking to your hand really much. So when it comes to this condition, your dough is in the right proportion of the water and the flour. Okay. So now we'll rest this for about 15 minutes or 10-15 minutes. It depends on the size of the dough. So we're going to rest this for about just 10 minutes, and then use a saran wrap to cover it. I'll just cover this with a saran wrap. Okay, while we wait, I will show you what to do with the red bean. Okay, what to do with the red bean. So the red bean is from the pack. Okay, from this pack. I have a pack one, and then you can also get them from Asian grocery stores. They come in the cans, which will be is perfectly fine, whether it's a pack or the can. The difference is that some of them are drier than others, so some of them are more liquidy. My version of this is a little bit drier, but it's still really, really nice, a smooth type. They're very, very fine. It's a very fine paste, like a flour almost, very, very fine. You don't see any pieces of beans in here. So what I do with this, because it's a kind of a firm and dry, what I usually do, it's just for the easy making used as a filling. I roll these into little balls first. I roll this into little balls first. The size of a Tong Yun is all depends on how big your filling is. because the dough we're going to use will be just a slightly larger than this filling, or very, very similar to the size of the filling, because the filling itself, outer layer, it should be a very, very thin layer, not thick layer. Okay, just like we'll make a dumpling, the dumpling wrappers are pretty thin. So tangyuan, it's very similar. We just form it differently. You don't need to roll the things out. Everything is by hand. So I have a few of these balls already formed in here. And then the way to do that is I just take a piece off. You can roll this almost like a really soft dough, and then just pinch it to the smaller pieces, and then you can roll it again. Just roll them in your hand again, and then that's about the balls. See, that's the fifth that this is going to be used for our filling. Okay, so for the filling, they are very easy to work with. If you're getting the one that's in the can, it's not a problem. If you have a tool like the cookie dough, the dough scoop, if you have to use this very small size one, small dough scoop, you can scoop them out of the can and then to put that in onto the the dough. If your filling is more liquidy. Also, if it's from the can, I would suggest that you take the whole can of a filling out of the can, put in a bowl, and then make sure you mix it well, because sometimes the liquid tends to sit on the bottom. So once you mix it all together, you can try and see if you're able to roll this into the little ball or not. Okay, so we just making few of this into the ball. So then when we make it the tangyuan, it will be, it basically save a little time. It saves a little time. Unless you have the cookie dough scoop, then you can use it just a cookie dough to scoop one out at a time, and they're pretty much to some the size wise, it will be kind of like uniformed. Size, it will be also uniformed. This is a one way that kind of like you really don't have to really weight it on the scale. If you just look at it, as long as they are similar in size, and then the tangyuan you make at the end, it turned out to be all similar in size. Okay, so make a few more of this. If anyone have questions, I'm happy to answer. There is also this is also the flour that we just used, the gluten rice flour. It's also the one that we use to make the Chinese rice cake. It's the same flour and just a different process. But for the Chinese rice New Year rice cake, niangao is also made from this gluten rice flour. Okay. So I have. Okay, I have about 21 here. I'm going to do 3 more. It's to serve the yuan xiao. They usually you can serve them 4 pieces, but most families like to do 5 or 6 pieces per person because they are not really huge. So they still try to 4 is fine, but they still try to stay away from the 4. But we also have a good explanations for number 4 as well. So I have about 24 of them here. This is 24 little balls. So I'm going to wash my hands. We'll come back to the dough. Okay. So we come back to the dough. It's good. This is about 10 minutes. But I don't have a larger quantity of dough anyway, so this is a good time for us. I can still feel the warmth of the dough. So at this point, we need to knead the dough a little bit. Knead that to make sure it's completely smooth. You make sure it's completely smooth. So kneading the dough is also, again, is not really hard because they're really soft, easier to work with. You just basically just knead that just back and forth. Not, as I say, it's not much pressure on this at all. Just to use the palm part of your hand. It's not sticking either. It's this is a very interesting flour. It's not like the regular flour. It will stick to the counter. This really is not sticking unless if it's too much water, and then it's hard to work with it, even to knead for you to work with. Then you need to add a little more flour. So you can see the dough is very smooth. It's not, as I said, it's not really, it's when the portion of them is right, it's really not really sticking to your hand, okay? So from here, what we do, I'm gonna put this back in the bowl, and then I'm gonna take a piece off first, okay? Now we'll cover the rest because it's very dry here. I don't want that to dry out. So for this piece, what I do is I'm gonna roll this. Basically roll that to a cylinder to the almost the diameter of the filling ball that we just made, to the similar diameter. See this, what I mean by it's like a similar diameter, okay? So, and then from here, I will just pull a piece off and then try to roll. You can test one to make sure the portion you pulled is about similar size as the filling, okay? When they are similar, get to this point, what you do is you push the center down, push it down while your thumb is going around, and then flatten it and make the dough thinner. You're creating a wrap. But it's what you create also create like when your fingers putting through the middle, it's like you're creating a little well. See, it's like a little cup, right? And then this point, you put the filling inside. Okay, push it down a little. Okay, and then push the top over because they're the flexible texture, soft texture. You can just keep pushing it in. Keep rolling it in because all these things are not sticky to your hands. It's easy to work with. So push it in and then try to close the top. Try to close this. It's like, okay, the shape is not right? I mean, well, pushing, they're not really perfect around. At this point, what you do is just simply roll this. It will become, it will get to the round shape. It will be round. And then if any end, you see, you can see the filling, say, oh, this filling is not closed right. You can just push that in a little bit and then continue and roll that again. You just roll it again. And then it will become a little red bean filled rice balls, 汤圆. Okay. So
And somebody asked, is other than Chinese New Year, is it better to eat this during the this winter season or any time? Tongyuan, can you eat it hot or cold?
the 汤圆, another holiday that they eat 汤圆 is at the winter solstice. Winter solstice, on that day, people tend to eat 汤圆 as well. You can buy them frozen in the store, but this is usually eat warm, not cold. It's not like a cold dessert. It's usually a warm thing to eat. Okay, so here's another one. This can also be eaten not only in the soup form. You can also boil it and then take it out. If you like peanuts, you can crush, or any kind of nuts, you can crush the nuts and then roll the tang yuan after it's boiled, taking out the water while it's still even still warm. You can roll that into the powdered nuts, and then you can eat it that way. So it doesn't have to be always in the soup. Okay. So here's another one I'm gonna make. So you just, after you put the filling in, you just need to just gently close the top. After the top is kind of all closed, then you just need to roll to make sure they are nice and smooth. Nice and smooth. And then the pressure that between, it's like you kind of like you're holding it, but gently. You're holding it very gently. You don't want to press it too hard. You don't want to press it too hard here. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna cover this too. Another piece. So we're basically, again, there's not that much of so-called technique here. It's all practice. Roll them into ball. We all know how to do this. And then push it down. It's a little small. When it's a little small, you can simply pull another piece and then add it to the one that you have. It's very easy for, they're easily formed together. They're easily formed together. So, and then here, again, you just push it down.
Jen, somebody asked, how do you know the thickness of the dough is good enough where that it doesn't bust open when you boil it? How much thickness should that dough be?
The thickness is all depends. I said it depends on the filling. If you're filling just the wrap, the ball you're making should be just similar but slightly bigger than the filling. And then when you put it in, as long as you're able to form it around it together, and then you don't see the filling coming out, that's the right thickness. You don't want them to be too thick, and then all you're eating is the dough itself. You're not getting any of the filling taste. That's why when we make the solid ones, the one without the filling, they are really small. They're really small. This is one thing that you don't want to eat too much at one time. It's not that easy to digest. It's not that easy to digest, especially for those if you you're usually sitting, you don't get up and walk around much. You don't want to eat too much of this because of the digestion issue. So the as long as you're able to have that covered and filled in the ball, then the thickness is good. If it's hard to cover, okay, if it become hard to cover, and then the filling, and then that means that your dough is too small. The dough is too small. And then you need to make sure that you roll a bigger dough. Okay, so this is getting too cold too quickly. Let me put that back in here. The because of the temperature and then the humidity we have here, I noticed that the doughs are easily dried up. So you don't want to take too much of them out. You can, because they are simple way to form the cylinder, all that. You can just kind of like keep them in the bowl where you work with. Just take out one piece at a time, if it's possible. That's then the dough is much easier to work with. It doesn't dry out. Because when you form this as a well, you kind of see you make that little, as you go around, it's getting a little larger, right? It's getting a little larger at a time. And then you can just make sure this is in. Make sure you can fill this in. It's pretty much, it's like it's wrapped like a little bowl already. So you just need to close it. All you need to do is just close this. Okay, we're just trying to close this. Once it's all closed, okay, this is a close, and then we'll roll that to make it, just shape it to the round, and then make sure the outer finish is more smooth. Okay, so that's where this is. Okay, so I'll make a few more of this, and then I will show you how to make the little ones. Little ones is even more simple. I think if you have children at home that they can make this with you. You can make the one with the filling. If the fit to add filling will be, it's a little too hard for them. You can ask them to make the solid ones, make much smaller ones. You are certainly able to mix the two when you cook this. You can even serve it mixed. That's okay too. It's all personal preference. There's no one way. There's no one way of eating the yuan xiao here. Okay. So.
And
Yes.
would this be somewhat of the same recipe to make sesame ball that you could fry?
You can. Then there's a couple extra steps to that. You can't fry them. You don't want the fillings to be, you want to use a little less filling in this case for frying the sesame ball, because, and then you don't want that to pop, and then that goes everywhere. The extra steps are, after you make this, you need to roll the ball itself in the water. After you roll that in the water, and then roll that into the sesame. So make sure the sesame sits on here. And then put in the oil to fry. Yeah, that's a very, 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 very similar way to do this. So, okay. So you can, if there's a little filling, you can just, all you need to do is just to push it in, and then to make sure they're all even, they're all in there, and then start rolling. Okay. As I said, serving this, it's 5 or 6 to someone that really, really like this. I mean, you can give them a little more. It also depends on the size of the tangyuan that you're making. For the one with the meat filling, they're actually much bigger than this. Is they're almost twice as large as these ones for the pork filling ones. But I think there are less and less people making the pork ones nowadays, so for whatever reason. But the southern China still have a few cities that people are still love the pork tangyuan, savory flavor. So. Okay, so here's one. Okay, let's see, I have 7. I want to make one more of the one with the filling. Then I will show you how to make the non-solid rice ball, the solid ones. Solid ones is another thing you can do with the solid ones. Actually, that's what I'm going to do with my school club next Thursday. We're going to make a tangyuan, and for second and third graders, it's a little harder for them to do the filling, especially online teaching. And so we're going to make a solid rice balls, and I'm going to form the doughs for them. So they're going to have they will receive a kit to have the all the doughs pre-formed, but they're going to get them in not only this white color, the original. I'm going to also add coloring, food colorings to the dough, and then you can. So they will be making like a rainbow tangyuan next week. So you can make add food colorings to the dough, and then make the small solid ones, or even the one with the filling with the color. It's perfectly fine, very festive. So pink, orange, green, not very much red. It's like a too red, but little light pink or dark pink will be fine. Even purple, all those colors will be okay. So to make the solid ones, okay, you just need to roll the cylinder to a skinnier, much skinnier cylinder, and then you just pull a little piece down at a time, pull them off, divide them into like a small pieces, okay, divide it into small pieces, and then again, we will just roll this. You can roll one at a time, but once you get used to it, you can do 2 at a time or 3 at a time. Okay, so they become little balls. That's all there is. For the solid one, that's why I said, if you have children at home, they would probably love to play with this. Yeah, they can play this like just like a Play-Doh, but it's actually something, and then they can eat. So, but if you work with a color, I suggest that you do the white one, the original one first, so the colors don't get mixed in onto the others. So especially for kids, that have them make the roll out the white ones first, and then do the color ones. Okay, so it can be a little small, a little large, it can be a little different size. These small ones are really, there's not much rule to it, just as long as you're happy with them. As long as you're happy with them. And also the similar size helps in cooking process. So you don't have to worry about the little ones are getting overcooked, and then the bigger ones are not done. I mean, that would be the only suggestions I have, to have them similar size, just so they are not, you don't have to worry about the cooking time to be different. Okay, so that's the little ones. Little ones, you can also pre-make them. You can also pre-make them and then put in the freezer. And when you're ready to eat them, then you can just take out the freezer and then boil them. The one with the filling, you can't do the same. Just make sure that when you freeze this in the freezer, make sure you have them covered. Sometimes if it's just a sudden change of temperature, the surface will crack open. You don't want that to crack open, even during the freezing process. If it's crack open, then by the time you boil it for later, then the filling will leak out. So just be careful with that, and then make sure it's all covered nicely when you freeze the tangyuan. Okay. So as I said, for the little ones, the way that in China they eat, they use this as almost like a part of the main, like a starch doing if you hosting a meal, they use this as a part of starch, served not with the dessert, but with at the end of the all the main course has been served to the table, and then this, it's usually come with to a large bowl, and then with all the solid, they call it 九娘圆子. 九娘圆子is 九娘 is this fermented rice, and then they crack a egg, do like a egg flour floating on top. So it's a soup based. It's a soup with a little bit of sweetness to it, but not overly sweet, because it's not used as really dessert, but it's a very mild starch. People in southern China in particular like this. People in Shanghai, Shanghai and Suzhou, they are particular like this form of a tangyuan. They call it 九娘园子. 九娘园子. And also people from the southern, like Shanghai and Suzhou, they are the ones still like the one with the pork fillings, So as long as when you get used to it, unrolling this, you not only you can do one, you can roll one, you can roll two, you can also roll three in your hand at the same time. As long as you just make sure they don't stick together, they're fine. Okay, so you can roll all three of them. All right, so I'm going to go back and make a few more of the ones that with the filling for those of you that if you either came in late or want to see a little more of this. Okay, so I'm going to make a few more with the filling. Yes.
Somebody asked does the red bean have sugar in it in the ingredients?
Yes, it does. Red bean does have a sugar in it. If you are not able to consume sugar, you can make your own red bean paste. It takes a little time. So you have to buy the dried red bean and then boil it to really, really, really soft. You can probably use it in the rice cooker or pressure cooker, very soft. And then blend that to a fine paste. And then you can sweeten it with the artificial or sugar substitute.
Okay. And another question is one of the viewers asked is that, does it have to be round? Can this be made in a rectangular shape, or could it also be made where after you boil it and you put the red bean on top of it?
Shape-wise, since it's a yuan xiao, it's representing a unity, a united. So it should be in the round shape. If it's a different shape, yes, you can make a different shape. Then we won't call it yuan xiao anymore. It will be you can give a different. It will be a different name, different dessert. People use mochi to make, but it's not. It's no longer yuan xiao. We will not call it yuan xiao. For red bean, I mentioned earlier that if you don't want to do that as a filling, then you just make the small solid ones. Remember the solid little ones, and you can melt the red bean into the soup as a part of the soup base. So you can have the red bean flavor, and then everything else it's made the same. You just cook the solid balls in the soup, and then you can still have it like then we call it 小圆子 in. You can still add the fermented rice. You can, or you can leave this out, and then just sweeten the soup base along with the red bean in the soup. But we don't usually, if you use a different filling, say if you have a sesame filling, if you have a white lotus filling, and then I would not suggest that mix the red bean into the soup, because then the flavor wise it will be really mixed. If you have a red bean filling, it's okay to put the red bean in the soup base. If you have a solid little ones, you can have a red bean in the soup base. There are also people like to have a very, very thick red bean soup. Okay, but it's all creamed. It's all creamed. And in that case, whether if it's red bean filled yuan xiao or it's the solid little ones, you can just add them after it's boiled. And then you can just add those into the red bean soup, thick red bean soup, and then the tangyuan will be coated with the red bean. Okay, so there are many different ways you can cook this. As long as you don't really, I really don't suggest that you mix the flavors. There are also people using a peanut filling. So peanut filling will be little, it's okay with the red bean. It's kind of a, the other way around actually. Not a peanut, if you have a peanut filling, the soup itself, I would still suggest that you use the plain soup. But if you have a red bean filling, tang yuan, it's out, you want to roll that around a certain kind of nuts, that peanuts is okay. They don't really, they don't, that flavor mixed actually, it's quite well. I have tried the solid ones, and after it's cooked, I roll that into the peanut powder. All the peanuts you just crust it, and then put in the food processor and create a bowl of peanut powder. You can roll them in there. That was actually pretty interesting. Nice, soft inside and a little crunchy outside. Another thing you can do is you can coat these in the coconut flakes. So if you like coconut, you can coat after it's made. You can coat the tang yuan in the coconut flakes. Then just eat it that way. Okay. So let's see. Okay. I will have. I'm gonna make one more of the one with the filling. That way I have a 12. Just me. I like to make these kind of thing. I like to make them even numbers. Even numbers. Okay. So again, just form it well. While you're forming it, you're turning and you're pressing down. The thickness is quite even, actually. It's pretty even. And here's another thing. I made this dough a little bigger. This was much bigger dough than I anticipated. What you can do if the dough is bigger, you put the filling in, right? So you can see how much space I have, right? In this one. So what you can do is you can just, same thing, you do the exact same way. You close the top, okay? Close the top, but you don't have to use all the extra dough on this one. You can just slowly close here and then pinch this extra dough off. Put it back in the bowl with the other dough. You can use it for the others. And then that way you don't have a extra thick, you don't have to have an extra thick one and with the same amount of a filling, but then it's really, really thick. And again, well, I'm not getting enough of the filling kind of thing. So then you can make that size still a little smaller, okay? So, let me show you. This is basically what I have here. So I made some, the one with the, let's see here, this way. The ones that, these are the ones that with the filling, and these are the ones that are without. This is just a solid little meat, the rice balls, basically. So we can cook, if you want to cook them in the same pot, it's a fine. Cook the one with the filling first, okay? Once it's start boiling, floating, and then add these in, because these are, see the size, they're much smaller, so it takes a much shorter time to cook, okay? So let's see, I'm going to start a pot of water. You need to make sure the water, you have enough water in the pot to cover the tang yuan in there, okay? So I have a water in the pot, and then so I'm just turning that on. After that is boiling, I will show you what to do with the tang yuan, how to add them in, and then how we're going to serve it. Okay. Fermented rice. This is a little bit sweet also. This can be used in both filled tang yuan and then the solid, the little small tang yuans. So there's no limit on no limitation on when you can use this. This part is a personal preference. Really, this is a personal preference. And how sweet you want your soup is also a personal preference. Okay. So while we wait, I'm going to make a few more little ones. I said little ones are very easy to do. You just pinch a small piece of a dough, And then you don't even have to pinch them all at the same time all together. You just pinch 2 or 3 and you roll it. And then once that's done, you put it on the board and then pinch another 2 or 3 piece. So it become a ball. Okay, so we just leave them there. Again, you can freeze all of them. You're certainly able to freeze all of them and then to use for later. Okay, so I did another I pinched another 3 pieces. If you want to make a color, dough, the one with the color, I would just make the dough first as one batch so the consistency are similar, and then you can cut them into different portions, and then on each portion that you want color, whatever the color you want to do, and then you can add color to that portion and then knead the color evenly. You can even also do like a marbled. If you just add color in there on the dough, and then don't knead that completely. You just do a few, like a fold, and then to create that marble effect. Basically, it's white plus the color. Once it's cooked in the soup, it's very, very, very interesting in the bowl. Okay. So, any other questions? As you can see, maybe when you buy them in the freezers from Asian grocery stores, you may think that this is probably something hard thing to do, but it's really not. Especially given the flour itself is very easy to work with. Okay. The way I'm making this is already more like a modern style. Traditionally, not the little ones. Traditionally, the filled ones are made differently. They create the filling first. Okay, they create the filling first, and then they have like a bamboo tray of some kind, but quite large bamboo tray, and then they put the filling. On the bamboo tray. The bamboo tray has the dried flour on it. So what they do is they put the filling on the flour on the tray. The person making the tangyuan is simply just keep rolling, roll the balls, make sure they all coated with the flour. So it's not really like we do it with our hands. It's a naturally coated with the flour until they stop coating. That's the thickness, because when it's really, really close to the filling, all the flours are absorbed. So you can still see like a little bit of a filling, like a color, you can see it through. So until it's coated to the point they're no longer adding the flour to it, that's when the tangyuan is made. So that was the original, a very, very original way of making it. Very few places still doing it that way. I think there are on certain occasions to promote the traditional technique, all the Chinese traditions. They still have people do a show and tell kind of thing to show people how the original things is made. So you can, if there is occasions you see one, you're able to participate in the one kind of event, it will be really, really interesting to watch. Okay, so let me wash my hands, and we will be cooking the tangyuan here. So the water is almost to come to the boil. So let me transfer this, my computer over. Okay. Okay, Susan, can you see this well?
Yes, can.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook all of them, but I want to cook the one with the fillings first. Okay, we'll cook that with the fillings first. As you can see, the water is boiling. Okay, the water is really boiling. So what you do is you just add the tangyuan in, just gently drop it in the soup, in the water. Okay. Since the water is used as the soup base, we're not using a different pot to do to make a soup. I suggest you use the water that you use to cook food. I don't use the tap water on this. So this, you just let it boil. When it's ready, and a lot of people was asking, how do you know when this is ready? It's usually ready when the balls are floating on top of water, floating on top of water. After the first flow, you need to make sure we don't add cold water in this, but after the first flow, you need to make sure it's actually still cooking. And then the color of the tangyuan is no longer solid white. As you know, when the dough is cooked, and then the color become a little transparent. And so when you see the tangyuan, it's already turned color, and then that's when they're ready. Okay, so
Jen,
yes.
yeah. So a question is, if you make abundance amount of these rice balls, is it good to put a little bit more oil so when you freeze it and you take it out, it won't crack? Will that help it by putting a little bit of oil in the mixture to keep it longer?
It doesn't really need oil because if your dough, the water and the flour proportion is correct, and then as long as you freeze the covered, it should not crack.
Okay.
It should not crack that way. Okay. So if you want, if you like a sweet soup, you can add brown sugar, rock sugar, white sugar, whatever kind of sugar that you use. How do you sweeten it? You can use honey as well. And then there's also a thing, my personal favorite is this. This is from the, I bought this from China, but it's called, it's a flower called osmanthus flower. And it's really, really, really fragrant. If you're able to find the dried flowers, you can actually marinate the flower into the sugar syrup. And then that gives you that scent and the flavor. But simple brown sugar, simple rock sugar is perfectly fine. Or if you like honey, honey will be fine. Okay. So see, these are, they haven't flowed to the top yet. They haven't flowed yet. I'm waiting for these to flow before I add the, you can see it's still kind of like on the bottom. It's not, hasn't really flowed to the top of the water. Okay. And once this is floating, then I will add the little ones in. I will add the little ones in. Okay. The fold. My bowl ready for this. So in this, I'm going to add a little water into. Usually you don't add water, but my water is going, in the process of boiling. The water is just getting lower on the water level. So I add a little water, and then once this is start boiling, I will be adding all these little ones in there. And for the solid ones, if you want to add egg, and then if you like to add the fermented rice, all those will add at the end. Pretty much the tangyuan is already cooked a few minutes before you're taking it out. Then you add the egg flour, basically 1 egg, you scramble it, and then pour that over the top. Pour that over the top. Okay. So now the water is boiling again. Here, these are boiled again. Now I'm gonna add all these little ones in. The little ones are much easier. You can just go ahead, roll it in. They're really not very sticky. So once you roll in, you can like move that little bit, make sure it doesn't stick on the bottom of the pot. Okay. We actually had Tang Yuan for the Lantern Festival. We had it already 2 nights in a row. We had it Thursday and last night. So for those people that really like the flavor of Tang Yuan, you can certainly have them more than just the special holidays. You can have them whenever you like to have some. It's not only because it's a food, it's linked to the holiday. It does not mean you can only eat them on holidays. Okay. So you can see, let me see if I can pull. You can see can you see the big, the one with that's filled? It's floating now to the top of the water. Okay, see, they're floating. So it's close to ready. Now I'm see the little ones are also start floating to the top. It's also start floating to the top. Okay. Right. So let me I'm gonna scoop some of the foams off. The foam is only it's because it's from the flour. Anything made of carbs, flours, when you cook them, it actually has some foam. You can just take it out. Now this, I turn the heat down a little bit so you can see the way how it's floating. Much easier to see the way it's floating now. And then when you fill it with your utensil, and you can feel it, it's a bit like the big ones, they're nice and soft. It has a little bouncing kind of, you feel like it's a really soft, little bouncing effect. Okay. So here, what I usually do is I add flour, I add sugar. I'm going to add my flour sugar syrup in here. You either add it in the big soup or you can add it in the bowl that you're going to serve this. You can add to the bowl that you're going to serve. So if you, in the event that you don't use all the soup, then your sugar is not wasted. So I can just get a spoon and then get some this sugar syrup. Because the one that's filled already have a red bean in it, so you don't want them, which means they already have a sweetness. So it doesn't have to be that sweet. So I just put this like a tablespoon in, and then I will add soup to it. You add soup to melt it. Okay, add soup to this. So here is basically your soup base. And then you will take the Tang Yuan out. I only want the little big ones, so I'm going to take only the big ones out. Okay, so here are the 12 big ones. Okay, I need a little more soup in there. Now I'll show you how to do the one, this the small ones with the egg and the fermented rice. Okay. So for the egg and fermented rice, so this is, I'm gonna put them, move this. So this is our bowl of tangyuan with the red bean filling. Okay. And then now, see, this is still boiling, right? Still boiling. So what we do is we will add this fermented rice. This is what it looks like when they are out, open. So I just put a couple spoonful of this fermented rice. So if you can see better, couple spoonful in here. Okay. And then it will be floating on the top again. In this case, now I will add some more sugar in here. Okay. Let it keep boiling. And the next thing is we will crack an egg. We'll crack an egg. I like the egg bits. So here's the egg. Then you just scramble it. After this is scrambled, all you do is just pour this over the soup. Break up the egg. We get a nice single layer, thin, very, very thin layer in here. So just break them apart a little. Okay. Now, this is ready to be served as, turn the heat off. This is the 九娘圆子. Sweetness is a personal preference. You like really sweet, then just add more sugar to it. Then we just serve that in the bowl. Okay. This is usually served, you can serve them individual size, if you have a small bowls, individual size, or you can serve as a family style, all in the bigger bowl, and then everyone can serve themselves as much or as little as they want. Okay. So let me move this over, that will move the computer. Okay, now we come back here. So this is our tangyuan here. So this is the one, let's see if you can see this better. Okay, so this is the one with the red bean filling, and then with the flour syrup, sugar syrup in it. Okay, so that's the tangyuan. And then this one here is the one solid little ones. These are solid little ones that with see all the little rice ball, and then with the egg and the fermented rice in it. Okay, and they're all very, very hot. So be careful when you consume them, especially one with the one that has a filling. It holds the heat quite well. This one holds heat quite well. They usually cut this open and then to eat it. So let me show you if I cut one open for you to see. Okay. So this is what it looked like. Okay. So this is what it looked like. You have the red bean in it. Okay. And then this is a little hot. So this is the red bean. Let's try to turn this so you can see on the other half, but it may not work right now. So you basically try to cut it open and then blow it, and then just make sure you don't burn your tongue. That can be, as I said, can be quite hot. Okay. So this is our tangyuan for today. Anyone have any questions? And there are some people also, if you don't afraid of a hot, you can bite half of it, and then you can see the red bean as well. I'm going to taste this.
Well, I don't know about
I'm going
everybody
to taste.
else, but I feel like it just gained 1,000 calories. I could taste it. One of the viewers
So
like
this is
to
the half.
if you could show the rice flour bag that she would get. Can you show that bag, the green? Yes.
What's this? It's a gluten rice called 糯米粉, and it's available at almost any Asian grocery store, especially Chinese grocery stores.
I'm gonna admit fault here. When I go get my rice flour, I just want to warn everybody. There's 2 rice flour bags, and I always get confused. There's one that's a pink rice flour bag.
Let me show you the other one.
And they're very, very different. So be very, very careful. It's the green one that you want. Otherwise, your dumplings will taste very strange if you use the red one. They look exactly alike.
They look alike, but one says rice flour, one says a gluten rice flour. Gluten is the one that you want. That is the sticky. When we make some Chinese desserts, we actually mix the two, just so you can have a little less stickiness. A lot of times I use like a 3 portion of this and then 1 portion of the pink, the plain rice ones. This is just a much less sticky. It things will not turn out the same if you get the round flour, that's for sure. But yeah, these are the 2 different kinds. For tangyuan, make sure you use the green one. Make sure you use the green one. Okay.
Jen, thank you, Jen, everybody, and
welcome.
Thank you. And I just want to remind everybody, our next cooking class is going to be March 20th. I know it's everybody's favorite. Jen's going to be teaching people how to make beef chow fun. So please mark that on your calendar. And for those who are interested and would like to make a donation to our cooking class, feel free to go to our website at www.tucsonchinese.org. So with all that, I think it's time to eat, right, Jen?
It is time to eat.
Okay,
even though I shouldn't eat this again, but for 3rd day, but I love them, so I will eat it.
Okay, save me some and I'll be there in about 10 minutes.
All right.
Okay.
Everyone have a good day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. 大家再见。